Well, here's another video for the FBI and Palantir. So, I've talked about this a lot the past, I guess so far this year, especially the past couple months. I was gonna say 6 months, but then I thought about it. I don't even think it's been that long. Cause, I know when the whole supposed snowstorm had came, I wasn't able to really do anything. And I got sick, so it hasn't been 6 months, but it's been some months. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I was trying to raise the Tamagotchi as a coping mechanism and to take my mind off of other stuff, but that didn't end up working out. It was crying or beeping or whatever too much, and I accidentally reset it, and I'm choking. And what else was? Oh yeah, and then I lost it. I don't know if I dropped it or somebody stole it, but yeah. So there's it. And I had got that with a Barnes and Noble gift card that I was given a hot minute ago. Something told me I should have just used the gift card to get a Minecraft pig plushie. I knew I should have just got the plushie. But then I was trying to let go of my plushies to move on in life and try to start attempting to become whatever a woman is supposed to be. But that's not working out. That's not working out. And so I still have my Luigi plushie. I lost my Toadstool one, honestly, that was probably a year ago at this point. I don't even know. It was definitely a long time ago. It was before that, well, no, it was before I even met that girl who played all those games with me and then went on summer break. But now I have an owl plushie that I got from this boy. But that's a long story. Anywho, or at least I guess this is an owl. It kind of looks like the Duolingo thing, but it's a gray instead of green, so. But it seems to have cat ears. Anywho, something else I've been thinking about. Throughout the years, I always notice that people say that they don't know what to make a video about or they don't have anything to talk about. It seems like I never don't have any. Wait. Yeah, I never don't have anything to talk about. And my MPDs never don't have anything to talk about. And there's the constant monologue going. But I guess according to most people, I don't have anything good to talk about. But hey, so now to get to the point. I just mentioned this in another video a couple weeks ago. I probably mentioned it multiple times in different vids. This goes into the whole I don't even know what it goes into actually. But I know I've been mentioning the whole thing of people thinking I'm secretly 38 since being back in the South. But I guess this kind of goes into, well, not really. I guess it more so goes into the whole thing of people pretending that youth homelessness doesn't exist, but I think it's because I stand out more than even the other two kids that were out here. Probably also because they both disappeared and nobody cares. People kept calling the girl fast, and then as far as the boy, he didn't really talk that much, but I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he got kidnapped or if he went to a friend's house or if his mom let him go back home, but the whole situation is really messed up. And I kind of feel, well, not I kind of feel, I've been felt bad. It's I don't know, I've never been that good at talking to people my age, so it's I don't know. Then it's I mean, nobody, why would they listen to me when I'm just another abandoned, neglected kid? So, it's I don't know. It's just really screwed up. And then that also, like, that's why I feel like I stand out more, though. I messed that all up, but it's like, because people approach me more, even though people claim to think I'm way older than I actually am. But I mean, people age everybody up. Like, I mean, even for like, I know those two people, and even like a couple other people like age everybody up for their different reasons. But I guess because I stand out more, that's why people approach me more about how I shouldn't be out here. And then, of course, nobody cares about boys. If you're a boy, they feel like you just got kicked out for being bad. But it's not that different for a girl, though. People just feel like you're being fast and bad and got pregnant, and that's why you got kicked out. But for boys, they just feel like you were bad or dangerous in general. And it can be worse if you're a melanated boy. And there's a lot that I could say about that'll kind of be irrelevant. But it's like, I don't know, the whole situation is just annoying. And then it's like nobody even cares either, because one of the things about the girl is that she was trying really hard to get into that dangerous human trafficking shelter. She was trying really hard to get in there after the whole winter storm thing had blew over and we were out of the storm shelter. And they kept telling her they were going to help her get in, but like they're always saying that their beds are full, but they let in who they want to let in. And I've heard that they only let people in who have disability checks. And honestly, that could be true, because for one, that makes it easier for you to claim that you're helping to house people, because it's easier, especially in a place like the South. It's easier to house somebody who has a disability check, because like even if Section 8 is like closed, you can still find some like affordable housing probably. So I feel like especially in a place like the South, a shelter's gonna want to bring in more people that are like elderly or whatever with disability checks, or veterans with disability checks, because you can get them in income-based housing based off their disability. And then another thing with it, though, that people don't talk about is that of course somebody's under 18, but like even if somebody's 18 plus, nobody wants to just throw a kid into a house anyways. And that's another one of the reasons why they won't house like younger people anyways, even in places that do have youth resources. In fact, in places where they actually have youth resources, which is really just the West Coast, it's actually even worse, because there's actually an age-based system when it comes to the programs. You're literally in the youth homelessness database, which means until you turn 26 or maybe 25, it depends on where you're at, but typically like 25 to 26, until you turn one of those ages, you're only even allowed to be in youth programs, which means you're only going to be able to be put in like some type of foster kid, homeless youth type group home, or some overnight youth shelter. And America already really doesn't have youth shelters anyways due to ageism, and people just saying that homeless youth should just be locked up or sent back home. So, or that they should just be able to figure things out because the whole they're grown thing, but generally they should be sent back home because they're just runaways. And so, what was I gonna say with that? Oh yeah, no, I don't know what I was gonna say, but I know I was gonna go into the thing that like the one youth shelter that I did find back when I was in Oregon is still just so much different. Like, I don't know if it's for a safety thing to like try to keep something from happening to like somebody, for just in case, I don't know, somebody falls in love with the staff and they're just around each other too much. But it's only for overnight. Like, you can't sit in there during the daytime and stuff like that. And that's really messy, because it's like, well, nah, because in Portland they actually have homeless storage. In fact, I remember back when I have went there and I saw that, I had made a video about that when I found that out, like that was last year, and I was like, I was just shocked, because I always thought the homeless storage was like a myth. I didn't think it actually existed, but they do have it in Portland, and you don't even have to do like a whole bunch of identity verification and like age verification and all that stuff. And also in Portland, I mean, yeah, like what I saw at the Greyhound, the Greyhound and Amtrak station with like the guards, telling the youth film program lady to try to rat out some kids who were runaways because they were missing persons and they were supposed to be like running to some other state. But generally, like, people aren't really trying to like turn in homeless youth, and I think maybe it's because they already know that like homeless foster kids is such a big thing there. People are more willing to just point you in the direction of the homeless youth resource centers. But the bad thing about that, though, is that they all want ID, and I feel like especially if you're a missing person or you just don't have vital records, that can like screw stuff up. I mean, they say you have to bring it to them within 2 weeks. You could just not do it, and maybe they'll forget about it. But I feel like that's just so messy. But anywho, the point is, like, the one youth shelter that I did find is just so much different from the adult shelters, and the rules were actually more strict. If you come in 1 minute late, you're banned for a night. If you come in 2 minutes late, you're banned for 2 nights. And it's like they don't even have rules like that at the adult shelters. Like at the adult shelters, people are in there. Well, especially when I was in Cali, anyways. People, you're able to do drugs. In fact, they only want people who are on drugs because if they feel like you're competent, they know that they can't take advantage of you and just use you and keep you in the shelter for years on end and keep making money off of you. Like, when I was in California, I literally seen people, even people with kids, get kicked out the shelter because they didn't use substances. So yeah, there is that. And the point that I was getting at with that is that oh yeah, I remember now. Okay, so I mentioned that like the homeless resource center staff, especially at the shelter, they and the outreach person, but I only seen her once and that was last year. They still don't believe I'm homeless, and they still also believe I'm secretly older, and they're saying I'm lying about my birth year, which is weird because my ID's in the system anyways. Which I really shouldn't have let somebody talk me into that, because now I'm another person on the list that they can get state money for. And in fact, if you're ever like if you're still laying low and a place asks for your name, for one, you can give them a fake name. I should put that out there first. But another thing about it is that it's not necessarily they're trying to like figure out who you are and like send you back somewhere. They will do that if they feel like, if they find out something. But generally, really, they just have to have a name on the list because that's how they get their money, and then they get more money depending on how many people say that they use their services. So don't get too paranoid if like you're going to a place and they want you to put some name on the list. It's not like some FBI type thing necessarily. They're just trying to get their money. But anyhow. It's like oh yeah, and then the lady told me the other week, one of the ladies that works at the shelter told me to go home to my family, and it's like, what do people not get? And then like when people say things like I like I can tell you're somebody's child and you shouldn't be out here and there's somewhere you're supposed to be at. I mentioned this whole there's somewhere you're supposed to be at that you're not at saying that people say all the time. Which even goes back to something I noticed and I would always talk about even way before I ran away or even knew that I would be able to run away. Is the whole lazy 40-year-old man stereotype, and the idea that men or even males in general, even boys, deserve to be out here but females shouldn't. It even makes me think back to something that this lady said to me when I was talking about people talking junk to me about me, how I shouldn't be out here or something pretty much. And she was like, people always feel like women have somewhere to go. And when they find out that that's not true, it messes their head up and it makes them mad or something like that pretty much. I think that generally just goes back to people wanting to pretend that the things that happen every day, all day, don't happen, and that the world isn't just how it is. Which goes into what I'm about to say that happened earlier. And I'm thinking about what else I have to say with the whole shelter thing. Oh yeah, but like, I can also say that since most of the people that like really hang out around there are pimps, or they're just not homeless, they're like going for community or for like on the soup kitchen. that could also be why they still claim to not believe I'm actually homeless and to believe that I live somewhere. But it's still like, I don't know how many times I have to, and it's, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me though, because like, there's really no reason for somebody, especially for me, to hang out in a place full of serial rapists and chomos if I don't need to. Like, I don't know how many times I have to tell these people that I actually am homeless and for them to not believe me. Like, I don't know. Like, I remember when the outreach lady had said to me last year that she didn't believe I was homeless, and I was trying to ask her about what services that they have, and she just kept saying that she didn't believe I was homeless. And then she did the whole let me know when you're ready to get help. And it's like, okay, we'll get help from, I mean, and I really hate the term help. Like, running away literally is the help. I'm not saying it's the end all be all. I mean, honestly, things don't always work out how you really want them to. A lot of people, they don't make it out, as I always say, and as I found out from watching homeless documentaries and stuff since 7. Generally, people become homeless as a kid and then get stuck. But I'm not saying that like that has to happen, but a lot of people do get stuck. So I'm not saying that like it's necessarily gonna work out how you want it to. But it's just like, no. But the main thing I was trying to say, actually, because I'm too dissociated, is that homelessness isn't supposed to be the end all be all. But for a lot of people, it ends up being that. And they just have to say, well, at least I ran away and got out of my main abuse situation. But I will say, though, that, like, people have to really get out of this, like, constant torture mindset. One of the things about it is that the way society is set up, there's the 1%. And, well, I wouldn't even say that, because elites are, like, born into these bloodlines. They're sold out, typically by parents, not even by themselves. And they go through a whole bunch of continuous abuse just to stay in the position that they're in. But generally it's a bloodline thing, so I can't use that 1% as an example. But like, not like elites, but like lower level, real self-made people that really like worked for where they got. Not like these bloodline people. Those people are very rare. Really getting to where you want in life, especially to a financial position where you like don't have to worry about the typical forms of suffering, is one thing. But still, if you have no family, nobody loves you or gives a crap about you, you're still going to be in suffering. To have love and to have money is a rarity, if that's even a word. But the people that actually have that, they're the real 1%. To have love and to have wealth. And so what was I getting at? As I always say, the only way to really not be abused and as say seen as a vulnerable punching bag and all that for the rest of your life is to get above most people. And so, trying to remember what else I was getting at with that. Okay, hopefully I'm hearable. I had to put my mask back on because like my throat's been getting dry and it's been hurting. But I don't really know what I was saying, not gonna lie. That's the dysautonomia lifestyle. And I'm about to fall asleep. Okay, yeah, I remember now. So, anywho, like, too many people get caught up in this quote-unquote vagabond nomad stuff. Now, for me personally, one of the things about running away, as I've said plenty of times before recently, and made a lot of videos about in the past couple months, you're now, well, I mean, depending on where you're at and how your situation is going and who all you're hanging around, how desperate you are, and whether you're able to handle being alone to a certain extent, like maybe being alone enough to make YouTube videos every day, but not being so lonely to where like you feel like you have to go run up in some rapist chomo's house for emotional support and attention. Which, I mean, I'm not knocking people for that. I get why they do it, but I'm just saying, if you're not doing like that stuff, once you're out here, you're in a safe and peaceful position enough. Aside from getting treated like crap and all of a sudden being told you're a bum, and now people telling you that they have the right to treat you like crap because of that, when you thought that you were finally going to get a break from abuse after running away, which is always going to be the funniest thing about it to me. But I don't want to go into that yet because then I'll be somewhere else. People really lose sight of what they deserve, is what I'm trying to get at. And this is going to be all over the place. I really can't help because I have really bad dysautonomia due to iatrogenic brain damage and especially malnutrition, but I'm not going to go back into that. But, like, people are too used to suffering is the point that I'm trying to get at. And most people never really enter a state of thriving. And that's the scary thing about it being life. And it's like, I don't know what else to say. Oh, no. I was saying that when you run away, you finally get to a peaceful position where you can actually think about things. And so after like a little minute of being out here, I mean, I still have people like side people gaslighting me and the typical medical gaslighting, but like, especially going to the youth resource center and having people, and even having random people tell me, which just actually started well before I ran away, especially in the little 3 months of school I went to before running, constantly having people make comments about my weight, my size, and how I can't be the age that I'm saying I am. But I don't think I look young. I think I just look sick, which I feel like can even go into the whole thing of why where I'm at now people could assume that I'm just like secretly a really malnourished 38-year-old or something. But I think it also just goes into different racial things and just the general thing of people pretending that homeless youth doesn't exist. And there's something else I wanted to say that I forgot to say a while back, which is that I guess since a lot of people that hang out at like the resource centers aren't actually homeless, then people like the staff can also use that as a reason to assume that I'm not really homeless. But generally, it's not even a safe place to be unless you really need to be there for at least food. So I just don't. It's just annoying that they keep playing this game with me. But anywho, to get back to the point, now I finally had time to actually really realize, okay, actually, I am like really seriously chronically ill. And so the point of me saying all that is that that's one of the reasons why, way back when, I started to realize, yeah, not only do I not want to do this vagabond thing as the only choice, which nobody actually really does, they just feel like they have to pretend that they do because they have no options, but also, I am like really, really sick, and it's not even an option for me. I mean, if I have to, I'm going to have to do it, but generally, like all this running around stuff, I just don't have the health for it. That's one of the first things that really knocked all that vagabond stuff out of my mouth, in my head, and in my heart. Realizing that I'm just really, really sick. In fact, due to the dysautonomia, I actually get more sick indoors, which is part of why. Well, no, 'cause if I go into that, it'll be irrelevant. I'll be somewhere else. But I talk about that in my How to Know If You Have Mitochondrial Dysfunction playlist, and how I've pieced everything together. And now my main conclusion is IVT, which I really wish I would have started like a long time ago. In fact, if I would have got out the gaslighting quicker and did more research quicker, I could have it would have been easy for me to probably figure out some way to get that back in Cali, possibly. And I would have most likely been better by now. But I'm not really going to go into that. It's just another sucky thing. And so, anywho, people feeling like they have no options and people being used to suffering and used to abuse, they like really lose sight of okay, wait a minute. They can either lose sight of their worth, or generally they didn't have any sense of self or self-worth in the first place due to all of their abuse and nobody giving a crap about them. And it's like they end up thinking that life is just about being abused, being yelled at, being told you don't belong here, being told you're not allowed here, being told if you use our bathroom or if you come in here, we're going to call the police on you, and go back to Mexico and get a job, get a house, buy a car, if you can't buy a car, rent a car, even though you're not even old enough to rent a car, all that bull crap. And it's like, honestly, there's really more to life than that. And I think that also, as I have really been saying, like, there really should be more harm reduction for people escaping abuse, and then especially when it comes to running away. And I feel like people should really tell their stories more. I get why people don't, because people talk junk, but like, I'm the only person that I've ever heard talk about even the behind the scenes, I guess I could call it, of a lot of different things. Like, even when it comes to running away, like, nobody actually talks about the psychological part. Like, I just can't really find any other way to explain the whole thing of, like, how, as I've said before, for example, as I've been saying for years, since the part 1 abuse evidence channel, when somebody's being abused, everybody knows. This is why abuse victims who don't have cognitive dissonance never say, I wish somebody knew. They say, I wish somebody cared. But, as I've been saying recently, when you're like, for example, you're locked up in I don't know, Georgia's G-net or something, getting beat on and locked in a cage and stuff. If you tell somebody that they can pretend to not believe you, or to just say that, well, you're lying because you're retarded or whatever, they can use those fake excuses. Because, as I always say, people are not stupid. People like to pretend to be stupid, but never let anybody convince you that they're stupid. It's not that people don't believe you. They pretend that they don't believe you because they really don't care, or they're too scared to do anything anyways, or they feel like there's nothing they can do anyhow. But once you become full-blown homeless and you run away or get kicked out, now your situation is in everybody's face. So now, also because your abusers aren't around, when people aren't just telling you to go home, people are generally going to be more honest with you about the fact that they don't give a crap about you, and that they feel like you're just lazy or whatever, and there are different little things that they say. People are no longer doing the little, oh, that's so sad, if that's true, but I don't really believe that, or the, oh, well, I believe you, but there's nothing I can do because your parents may say this. Now people, especially because of how people feel about quote-unquote homeless and poor people, now people are more aggressive towards you, and people are more honest about how they really have always felt about you, even in your previous situation. But now people are more honest about how they feel, and now people are more willing to say what they really think about you and how they really don't care. But it's like, I guess there's a lot of blame when it comes to the people's stereotypes or ideas about quote-unquote homelessness. And it's like, when people, like, for example, I mean, people will still tell you that they don't care in your abuse situation, but, like, for example, if you're like 12 and you say you're like, I don't know, your dad hasn't been home for like 5 months or something, and you've just been at the house by yourself. Somebody can, like, say that, well, there's nothing they can do about that, and that's your parents' house, and you're their kid, and they can do whatever in the world, they can do whatever they want. But if you're like 12 and you're kicked out, I mean, nobody's gonna help. If anybody did anything, bare minimum, it would be calling the police, but that would do nothing but put you in danger. But if they don't do that, they'll be like, well, you must have been really bad and did something to get kicked out, and you just need to, like, get a job or whatever. Or especially if you're 14 plus, they'll definitely say that, which probably would have been a better example. People, I don't know how else to put it, but, like, as I've said before, I do feel like people kind of give too much of this, or no, I won't even say that. I'll say that when I was in support groups, as I've kind of mentioned before, when I was in the abuse support groups online on Reddit and stuff, and when people would comment on my post there, and even, like, on my abuse evidence videos, there were a few that kind of gave me this impression that, like, people did care, even though I did, like, when we all fell out, I did come to the conclusion these are just people with a white savior complex, but also they did actually care about my situation because they had went through something similar or even worse, but still similar in ways. But they overall did have a white savior complex, and that's the one of the big reasons why they reached out and would like talk to me about the whole thing. But people, I mean, I don't want to say that they were like bad people, not that I believe in the concept of a good person, but like there was just all that with the whole thing. And so what else did I say with that? Anyways, oh crap, what was I saying? But like they kind of made me feel like, okay, so the issue is that I'm locked up in the abuse situation, and once I get out, like I'm gonna find somebody who cares and who's gonna help. But it's just not true. And I feel like it's really unfortunate that a lot of us fall into that mindset, because the whole reason you have to run away in the first place is because you finally accepted, at least to a certain extent, that nobody cares. You have to save yourself, and nobody's gonna save you. That's why you run away. It's supposed to be your first step to a better situation, and laying low and just being homeless is your transitional period until you find something out. Although figuring something out revolves around a lot of ifs, ands, and buts, because you have to be able to pretend you're not homeless, which pretending you're not homeless when you're a kid and people are still expecting you to have like somebody to help you with things, or like take you to work or pick you up from work, or if you can even manage to get a job, or people are expecting you to be in school or and stuff like that. It's kind of hard to like fake not being homeless, especially if you're in a place where people are used to youth homelessness. Like where I'm at now, I mean, aside from the people that actually walk by me and see me like sleeping outside, people aren't going to assume that I'm homeless. People are just going to assume that I'm outside a lot. Maybe that I'm way older than I actually am, which they'll probably still assume that anyways if they do assume that I'm homeless. That I just have like a book bag, or that I just have a lot of stuff going on at home and I'm trying to like avoid being at home, which I mean, before I ran away, I was always like, when my health was decent and I wasn't in a flare up anyways, I was always sitting behind shopping centers and walking and stuff like that anyways, and sitting behind this church across the street and in the neighborhood across the street and stuff like that. I always did things like that to avoid being at home anyways, which is actually interesting because I feel like as homelessness spikes up, and especially in places that like are used to youth homelessness, behaviors like that are considered quote unquote bum poor person behavior, but generally it's really an escape that I was doing even before I actually escaped, which there's a lot that I could say about that. But anywho, point is, like, I would say especially in a place like where I'm at now, the first step is actually getting the job, but they're not gonna first off like assume that like I'm homeless. They're just gonna assume that bare minimum, like I just have stuff going on with family, which is a good thing because in a place where they're used to homeless youth, they already know what to look for. And generally in places like that, they have high homeless populations in general, and everybody's just staring people up and down trying to guess who's homeless and who's not. Like, I've seen a lot of situations in Cali where like construction workers would be kicked out of places and be threatened and have the police called on them because due to them like having paint and stuff all over them or just looking dusty, store owners and just random people would assume that they were homeless, and yeah, and bad stuff will happen behind that. And so, anywho, the point is that, uh, yeah, like, there was definitely a lot of false expectations that like I was given. And then also I remember like that counselor that I had during the part 3 to 5 channel, I think, that was cut off around the time of the 2/17/22 CPS case, which that was the part 4 channel, not the part 5. But I remember when I called her and I was talking to her about how I had ran away, and she was telling me about how she was glad that I ran, and how I think I actually used those awkward little clips in my not the nobody gives a crap about anybody video, but I think it was the "You're the reason I make videos" video, where somebody had left a comment a couple months ago under some video about something, and they were pretty much saying they're running away and what you're supposed to do. To make a long story short, that's exactly what you do. And I told them, staying in that pussy mindset that somebody's gonna come save you and that somebody cares about you will forever have you in bad situations. And as much as people talk junk to me for saying this, something that I've noticed since watching a lot of business content the past months, or even couple of years, even before I ran, but especially the past couple months, that's literally all I watch. Something that these people that claim to be self-made millionaires and stuff are always saying is that nobody cares about you, nobody's coming to save you. It actually seems like if you take that fact and you do the right thing with it, then you can actually get somewhere good in life. But anybody who's claiming that that's not true and is saying, no, you just don't trust people, or you're just traumatized and effed up in the head, quote unquote, they're in denial. And one of the funny things about it is that they're actually a living example of the fact that nobody cares, because obviously they don't care. They quote unquote help themselves. In fact, literally themselves. But even me or whoever else. But what else was I gonna say with that? I'm trying to think. Crap. Ah, dang. I did leave my drink somewhere. It's whatever. I just started thinking about that because my blood sugar's dropping, I think. But anywho, trying to think about what else I could say. Oh yeah, but going back to the whole self-worth thing and the street kid and getting stuck and then just considering yourself a vagabond, like, I just, no, actually, another thing with that I could say first. So, crap, there's a spider on my face, or just a spider web. So going back to the whole Miss S&J situation, which I have the part 1 and the part 2 of. The part 1 is titled Cycles of Life something something something. The part 2 is titled Let Me Help You Lunatic something. Don't really remember, but I'll put in the description. And in those two videos, I go over a situation of a foster kid. So the typical situation of the elderly person that's about 60 that's been homeless their whole life. That's really what it is. And also had recently escaped the elder trafficking situation, which is really a long story, but it's like seeing situations like that and even other people's situations, it makes me feel bad, and it's also scary, because it's like, for one, if I even lived anywhere near even 25 with all my health issues and stuff, and the situation is like, that would just be scary even living at 25, but like, I couldn't even imagine spending my whole life alone, being taken advantage of, vulnerable, having the police call on me for not having anywhere to go, being locked up in a house, being abused, being trafficked, all that stuff, till 50, 60. It's like, for me and other people that I know, we didn't even think we'd live past 10, 12 years old. But it's like, the thought of even living till now, but then living till being elderly with the same circumstances and the same cycles, and that's like terrifying. That's one of the terrifying things about life. And I know that, like, even during the abuse evidence channels, I would talk about the whole thing with, like, how my quote-unquote mom, my quote-unquote dad, my mom's boyfriend, and even my mom's husband, and even older neighbor siblings, how people end up becoming like that. And even how, like, I developed a lot of issues that I've had throughout my life. But especially for my quote-unquote mom, dad, and my mom's boyfriend, and my mom's ex-husband, they're good examples because, for one, they're in that 40 plus category. Well, crap, I think My dad's probably older than that. In fact, well, yeah, he is. Well, I did say 40 plus, but he's older than 40 actually. But it's hard to remember because he was running around saying he was 40 for 5+ years. But I'm not going to go into that. But I get that though. I'm honestly scared that I'm going to end up like him, in denial, because like I've already been in a midlife crisis since 14, and generally, as I said, I knew my life was over before 10, and it's just scary, like constantly watching your life drift away, and constantly talking about not getting to be around people your age. But as you continue to talk about it, and as days go by, the people that were your age are no longer the people your age. Like it makes me think back to that video where I was going over different runaway stories or something like that. And this one boy was like, and he was still a teenager when he posted this, but he was talking about how he forgot about being a teenager way before he even became a teen. And that's a scary thing, especially when you're already typically in situations where people are aging you up and trying to make you feel like you're older than you are. And then with the Dronafel agenda, as I call it, that's been ramped up by people pretending to care about the decades old info that they call the files, quote unquote. And how that's now causing people to say that adolescence into 16, and that anybody 16 or especially 17 plus isn't a teenager. It just confuses somebody who's already in a bad situation and being wronified even more. But generally, I can really get how people can end up in these cycles of saying that they're not really old even when they are old, which really throws me for the loop because I've already been feel like I'm old. But then I meet these like guys especially who are 40 and 50 and 60 and stuff, who are saying that they're not old, but they also often are trying to do that not even just because of denial due to like missing out on doing stuff when they were young and like age regression, but generally just due to sexual stuff, because they want to convince the young people that they want to get with that they're young too. And they want to like try to infantilize yourself down to your level, which even makes me think back to the whole thing when I was 16, and the guy who was he was 53 or something like that, and he was like, he's the boy but I'm the grown woman. And that's how things generally always seem to go, which then it makes me more confused. But as I always say, even if you do find somebody your age, still nobody wants their kid around the homeless person typically. And I've just been becoming more antisocial day by day anyways. But generally, even by 14, when I like started to realize that I needed to stop playing unpaid emotional therapist for people that didn't care about my situation and focus on actually accepting that my abuse situation was serious and I needed to figure out how to get out before I die or whatever. It's like from that point, even kind of 12, but from that point on, it's like even before running, because I was still in isolating situations, especially, I wasn't even allowed around like quote unquote normal kids. It's like I wanted to talk to people, but still to this day, when I do talk to people again, I remember why I stopped when I would have the choice, somewhat, and just how confusing and wishy-washy it is to like have to go back in your head about whether someone really likes you or not. But I think that's why one of the good things about being out here, as I said before, and why I feel like I really needed this, is because it really beats it into your head, the fact that nobody cares about you, because and that helps you to really, really learn and understand. You have to focus on you and loving yourself and caring about yourself, because nobody else actually cares. People don't even care about themselves for real. And I feel like that's the good thing about being out here, if you can take the lesson for what it is, but that also is if you can actually get out of here as well. So there's that. And there is no straddling the fence. The way I see it is that you either have to be like a 1% type person and become rich, or you're just going to be struggling like everybody else. But like I say, with the World Economic Forum and the NWOB System 2030 agenda. You will own nothing and be happy. So I guess everyone will be about the same eventually. But something else with that. Oh yeah, so earlier, I totally forgot what I was supposed to be saying some minutes back. I went into a rant that I said I wasn't going to go into. But earlier, before I forget this, I ran into another one of the situations where somebody tells me about how I need to, quote unquote, trust people, and pretty much I need to tell people my life story. And if I run around telling people my life story, or if I tell them my life story and who I am and what's going on and where my parents are and why and what all happened, that'll get me quote unquote help. That's really annoying. Like I even had this lady at the shelter tell me that I needed to tell her about my quote unquote childhood. There isn't such thing as a child or a childhood. And I need to tell her about why I'm out here and where my parents are and what all happened and if I have any trauma. And it's like, what am I doing that for? Like I'm sitting in some type of therapy session or something. That none of that is gonna. There either is quote unquote help and services, which I know there isn't. Somebody had talked me into going to that place again just for me to have my name on the list so they can scrape up more grant money for nothing. And the whole convo was very triggering. And the lady acts like she's about stupid anyways. But yeah, so and one of the things that's annoying about that is kind of just like how I said, the whole thing of people even coming up to you talking about some quote unquote help is annoying. Not only because they're not talking about actual help, they're really just like pointing you in the direction of services that don't exist, but also because it's like, where was all this help when I was in an abuse situation with 2,000 videos of abuse evidence? Why does everybody all of a sudden want to, well, not everybody, why do some people all of a sudden want to come out the woodworks talking about help and how I'm not safe and how I need quote unquote help when I actually am safer than I've ever been in my life and when I've now helped myself and I'm now trying to now in a transitional period of figuring things out to try to get into a better situation, which people won't even do any actual quote unquote help with that transition. But I don't really believe in the term help, and I don't even like hearing the word, to be honest. And it's gotten more and more annoying. But this idea that like I need to tell people about everything that's ever happened to me, and then I guess $1 million is about to fall out of airplane or something. I don't know, but that's what people act like, and it's like, it's just really annoying because it's just like I say with the whole help thing. It's like, okay, but when I was running around, for one, everybody already knew what was going on. Like most of the people that were around were flying monkeys and enablers and stuff that worked in the Cash for Kids system, human cash cow system, and got paid to either help abuse me or abuse me themselves. And then all the side people that played enabler or not Jeopardy, but I don't even know what the word is. The person that just stands there and watches pretty much. And not to mention the whole thing with the abuse evidence videos that I have, and I mean, I'm even still making videos about the whole situation, and that's just like, it's just like, tell you everything that I was telling people for years that everybody already knew and already knows, and then what's supposed to happen. And to be truthfully honest, if I actually was to tell these people about what's actually happened, which is so pointless because none of that even matters anymore because I'm not even in the situation anymore. Why do I have to tell you about a whole bunch of bullcrap that happened before I ran away and everything that happened since at the light of conception and stuff for you to do what? And that's gonna make you do what, why, and how. And then if I did tell them, they wouldn't even want to talk to me anymore, especially if they were to hear about the Cash for Kids system abuse and the labeling and the retarded stuff. Because for one, people already feel like, especially if you're like a kid or whatever, people already feel like something is bound to be wrong with you. Not that I've been getting any better and I haven't been getting worse because of the lack of care, but people already feel like something's wrong with you if you're younger because they feel like, one, you should be at home somewhere getting taken care of, supposedly, as if most people don't raise themselves anyways. Two, you're probably getting raped and taken advantage of every day, quote unquote. So you're probably effed up in the head, and you're gonna do something to me and my kids and all that stuff. The idea that you're gonna do all types of bullcrap to them, which is really funny because it's like these same types of people would call me paranoid and scared of people, even though I'm not scared of anybody. But they'll say that I'm just scared of people and I'm scared to get help because I don't trust anybody. But then they'll try to like generally will let me help you lunatics will do anyways. They really don't want to help you, quote unquote, so they'll like come to you begging you to let them do this, let them do that, let them take you to their house and stuff like that. And then when you finally give in and agree, they'll be like, well, I'm scared of this, or I need to know this, or why are you really out here? And it's like, okay, so then why have you been trying to manipulate me into this for months on end then? But that's generally how let me help you lunatics are. Because they want to like pretend that they're gonna do stuff to make themselves feel better or look good or do to like religious stuff and feeling like it's gonna get them into heaven. But I'm not gonna go back into that really. But they play those types of games, but overall it's like if you I don't even know what to say about it, like especially when it comes to cash-for kid system, mental health system, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which generally most people are gonna go through if they're being abused these days because like that's abuser's favorite game, the whole labeling and stuff. And plus the school system is a big culprit of this. Like if it wasn't for the school system, most autism and ADHD and ODD diagnoses and um anxiety and stuff like that, even depression wouldn't even be thrown out, and a lot of people wouldn't have ever even been drugged in the first place if it wasn't for the school system. Because for the ones that don't have just abusive parents who want their kids labeled and want to do Munchausen, the school will do Munchausen to blame the kid for their abuse symptoms or just because the kid is smart and they don't like them and stuff like that. But it's like if somebody already feels some type of way about you and already has like these ideas of you and what you have going on in your head and you being traumatized and screwed up, which I mean is generally true, but it's kind of everybody, but it's on different levels. The last thing I want to tell somebody is about the cash for kids system abuse at 12 to especially 12 to 14, because that's when all the, well, no, really 12 is when all the labeling happened. Because then they're going to be like, well, then you're not safe around me and you're a liability or whatever, and stuff like that. And it's like, people generally already feel like I don't seem like I should be out here because they can't figure out why I should be kicked out. Because people are always trying to like find a way to make abusive parents or guardians the good guys and always make the kid the bad guy. So people say stuff like, well, you don't really seem bad, so I can't see what you would have got kicked out for, because it's about being quote unquote bad and not just about abuse and neglect, which I wasn't even kicked out anyways, but that's how they view it. So they'll be like, or at least people will think, well, if you don't seem bad, either you're hiding it or you got kicked out because you're retarded or crazy or something, or of course they'll just like do the whole, well, you left and you just need to go back thing. So people already think like that, and it's like, but I just don't even get why people even try to play that manipulative game though, because generally, like, it just doesn't really matter. None of the stuff that happened in the past mattered. People really just want to know all your business, and then they'll just use it against you anyways if you do tell anybody, which I wouldn't anyways. But I do know that like some Let Me Help You lunatics in Cali, back in my earlier days of being out here, definitely did like, two of them especially, well no, one of them told the other person, so one of them especially kind of like manipulated some stuff out of me, or maybe three. I'm not really going to go back into that though, but one lady was honestly really, she was understanding about it though. She actually claimed that if she was to do something, do to running around telling people my business, that would like get me caught and get the police to like come try to take me back to my abuse, she would actually admit that the Munchausen was going on. But it's like, how true is that really though? Like, people generally they have their first. They say that they're scared and they don't want to get involved because of that. But the excuses will keep going, and it's like, luckily she did end up getting me caught. But if she would have, I doubt that she would have like actually vouched for me. But generally, I feel like anybody that's trying to like demand your life story out of you isn't safe anyways. And then nobody really cares. It's like, because like for a lot of people, especially, well, honestly, I don't even say once you're homeless, even in an abuse situation, if you like a lot of people already feel like I'm attention seeking and stuff by even making these videos. So it's like, I couldn't even imagine the responses I would get if I started like running around talking about all that stuff that happened, because nobody really cares. People are just gonna feel like, especially since I'm quote unquote homeless now, supposedly, they would just feel like I'm trying to use it as a sob story to make somebody feel bad to help me because I'm a bum. And then if I was when you're in the abuse situation, people feel like you want somebody to feel bad for you, and then I don't know what they think you want people to do though. But or you're just attention seeking. People like to say that. Honestly, I kind of feel like at this point I just come off as attention seeking, or like, I don't know, maybe selfish, but I think it would revolve around the MPDs and just being too used to talking to myself in my head my whole life, so I only really know how to like make things about me when people are talking about stuff. More so online though, but I feel like even that could probably come off as attention seeking. But I mean, generally, I think if you just stand out and you're just honest and you just talk about real things, people feel like you're attention seeking. But I mean, generally, everybody needs attention, but I already know I'm not going to get it. And I feel like even if I was to go on one of these sex parades, I still wouldn't get attention because everything would be about them. That's another reason why I really just can't fall into that whole cycle of essay like a lot of people do, because it's like, it's still so fake, and I'll just end up like having to choke them out or something. Because like, it's just all about manipulation and stuff. Like, they just want to essay, but they're not really going to want to talk to me or spend time with me. And if they do, they really don't care. It's just to like get what they want. And it's all typically one-sided. Oh, some people that are labeled off as sexual predators are honestly nice people. I'm not even gonna lie. People can say whatever they want to say. They're more helpful than anybody else, but you'd have to do a lot of deep digging to find one that really cares. Generally, two messed up people get together, and while they may still have whatever sexual issues, they also care about your situation because they're a caring person, but also because they went through or are going through the same thing. But if they're older, they'll get labeled off as a predator anyways, but I don't really think that's always the case. I'm trying to think about what else to say with that.